Right, so it's part 2 of the tutorial, this mini tutorial, and the figures are on the bottle caps, and I went downstairs and I sprayed up black undercoat using Halford's matte black. Good coverage and fairly cheap compared to a lot of the war game related stuff. Never had a problem with that. So once the black undercoat's on, I then use a large brush, a large soft brush, with some watered down Vallejo acrylic paint, black obviously, and then just wash over the figure, the bits I've missed, normally under the hats and under the tunics. And once that's dried, I then start painting. The colours I'm using for this Union regiment, for the frock coats, I'm using dark Prussian blue, because the Union coats are very, very dark blue, almost black on some occasion. So dark Prussian blue, and the trousers I'm using ultramarine blue. Now the temptation, I think, is to use a sky blue for the trousers, but using Troiani's book. Now where are we? Let's have a look. As you can see, they're almost like a mid blue, so that will fit quite nicely. And don't forget, we're going to be using a black wash over the top, so it takes it all down a shade. And then I've started those. I've done a batch of 16 or so. I'm painting 2 batches. I'll paint up the block colours, paint on the block colours for both groups, and I'll wash them all together, and I'll start the highlights and dry brushing after that. I intend to get on this regiment onto the table fairly quickly, so I won't be using the tried and tested triad method, you know, with the dark shade, medium shade, and the highlight shade. I'm going to be dry brushing the uniforms, and I might do the triads on the equipment, or at least 2 possibly, well, at least one highlight. And I'll take more time with the flesh tones, because I think we'll concentrate on faces, bases and flags. So the faces, when you look at some troops or some figures, you always automatically go towards the flesh tones. Well, I do anyway. So we'll take time on the flesh tones. The basing with a fairly drab uniform as the Union troops. The basing with, say, greens and some flowered tufts and stuff will give it the unit a lift, and obviously the flags, they catch your eye as well. So with those 3 things, it will take away from the dry brushing of the basic uniform. So I'll get cracking, and then I'll put another bit of film on the end of this one. Right, so I've blocked in these colours of this first batch, and you can't see it very well at the moment. So the basic blues are on. The tin canteen, musket stock in flat brown with the belts for the canteen. And what I've done, I've used like a chrome colour for the parts of the musket, metal parts. It looks a bit bright, but once you put the wash on, it all calms it down a little bit. I leave the flesh tones until last, because when you dry brush, sometimes you might get a bit covering over the hands or the face, and so you can take your time when it's time to do the flesh tones. I've added just the blanket rolls in greys or like a mid-brown colour, nothing too bright at the moment. The second batch I might do a few brighter ones. Once these are washed, I'll then go on to the second batch and bring those up to the same level. Brushes I use, just 3 brushes I have. 3 brushes and a stirrer. That's my stirrer, which is an old paintbrush handle. I use the Army Painter larger brush for some of the details, the larger details. I use this old Wargames Foundry #1 brush, and it's so worn that the tip, there's a light on this, the tip's almost like a flat-ended screwdriver, and so I do most of my painting with the larger, you know, the trousers and the jackets with this, because it picks up a lot of paint, whereas this point here, you'd be there quite some time. That covers well, and it'll be a sad day when that is no longer in use. And the last brush I use is a Citadel layer. Great point on that, and that's what I'll do my flesh tones with. The highlights of the flesh tones and the detail. So that's it. Just 3 brushes. I'm not too snobby about brushes, as long as they keep their point, apart from this one in the middle. I'm a happy man. Okay, and I'll now start painting this last batch, second batch, that one there, with the command figures on and a few of the other bits and pieces. Okay, what I've done now is I've again painted in or blocked in all the colours of this last batch, apart from the flesh tones. And next up is Nuln Oil. Now the reason I'm using this as opposed to the Army Painter dark tone is that, or strong tone, I like the Nuln Oil because it's like, where are we? It's a black wash, and with the dark blue jackets and blue trousers, the black wash goes better than, say, the strong tone, which is more brown in colour. And so I just cover every part of the model, figure, sorry. That's my little tip. I always find it handy having a lump of blue tack on the table. Where are we? There we go. Back here. Make sure it doesn't pull in the recesses. And this just takes the colours, all the colours down a shade. The brass belts and the brass insignia on the hats, I use Vallejo Shining Gold for that. Again, it looks a bit bright, but once it has this wash over the top, again it takes it down. Alright, there's that. Got to make sure this is dry, because the first phase after it has dried will be the dry brushing of the jackets and trousers. So if it's not completely dry, you dry brush over a wet wash, you're going to smear it all over the place. That's the wife running a bath down there, what you can hear. The wife mentioned previously about the flesh tones. I don't include the hair or the beards. You know, I paint the hair and the beards because that would be dry brush as well. Possibly dry brush, depends how much of it I can see. So once I've done this batch, or washed this batch, that means all the figures will be at the same stage. And I think that's just pulling a bit there. Take that off. The two officers have dark blue trousers, as opposed to the troops. Still no gaming. It's been months. All painting, no gaming. Heard from the my mate Paul at the club, it looks like August. They'll be reopening September. So I look forward to it. Not too sure of my lockdown total, as in total of painted figures and equipment. I'll have to look back. Pulling there. Yes, I think we've yet to play the new muskets and tomahawks and got those pre-locked down. Got a lot more troops now to play with. I think I'm up to 7 units of French in that so far. And then my mate Tony's got absolute loads, both sides. I've got 6 or 7 French. Not French, sorry, Anglo-American militia and provincials. So, yes, look forward to that. Okay, that's that. Wash out the old brush in a very dirty pot. Okay, so those go over there. And what we have is that lot there. Drying off. I don't think I'll do much this weekend because obviously it's a family time. That there, and then we've got these which I completed during the week. And there's 30 figures altogether. With the next part, we'll start the dry brushing and the highlighting. I might do the highlighting on some of the equipment and then we'll attack the faces and hands.